Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. I am so excited for today's video because we are going to be talking about all of my empties from 2019. I ended up having 95 makeup empties, which makes me so happy, and I ended up using about $1,665 worth of makeup. If you guys are interested in catching my makeup rehab series, I will have my finale as well as my playlist linked below and in the cards, where I talk to you every month about the amount of makeup and the price of makeup that I'm bringing in versus the amount of makeup that I used. My goal at the beginning of the year was just to use up at least $1,500 worth of makeup, and I exceeded that goal, which I'm really excited about. I'm also not gonna lie, I'm very excited to kind of just throw all of this makeup away that I have been hoarding to share with you guys at the end of the year. I will be doing the same thing for 2020, and I think it'll be really interesting to compare categories next year. I did a 2018 year-end makeup empties, but I hadn't been collecting my makeup empties the entire year. I think I started in like April, so it didn't really make sense for me to kind of compare last year to this year, but I am very excited to compare 2019 to 2020, hoping that maybe in 2020 I can use up 100 makeup products, so I would have 100 makeup empties. And I haven't yet thought about what I want to set as like my dollar value goal. I think maybe if I don't want to go with 1,500 again, maybe like 1,750, since this year I used up almost 1,700. But regardless, I'm very excited that even though I do have a large makeup collection, I obviously have been using my makeup and getting use and love out of it, clearly, because I have tons of makeup empties to share with you guys today. So if you're interested in seeing all of the makeup that I went throughout the entire year of 2019, then stay tuned. But first, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I hope you'll consider doing so before you go. I do post videos 5 days a week, so if that's something that interests you, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button before you leave today. But other than that, let's just jump into the video. So I'm obviously not going to be giving like in-depth reviews on each product, but I will quickly breeze through each category and like the number of products that I used up in that category, and then I'll share with you which products they were, and then we'll move on. So I figured we could just start with the primer category. I ended up using a total of 15 primers this year. One thing I do want to preface this video with is I do my makeup, I would say on average 5 to 6 times per week, and on days that I film, which I usually film 1 to 2, sometimes 3 days per week, I usually end up doing my makeup a minimum of 2 times. So I do my makeup a lot. So I just want you guys to be aware of that. But starting with the primer category, like I said, I used up 15 primers, a lot of these being deluxe size. And one more thing to preface this with, not all of these products were brand new at the beginning of the year, obviously. Like some of them were like half used, etc. But starting with these two, I finished up 2 Becca primers this year. I went through an entire Becca First Light priming filter. I've said before I would not purchase this again. However, I've changed my mind, and if this were to be half off during Ulta 21 Days of Beauty again, I would purchase this because I do like the look that it gives to the skin, but just not enough to pay $39 for this. And then I also finished up the Becca Backlight priming filter. This one is a little bit more artificial looking than the First Light priming filter, so I do prefer the First Light to the Backlight, but I was able to finish up 2 Becca primers. And then I also finished up my Too Faced Hangover RX primer. This was going in a project. This is not a favorite of mine. This is another one that I picked up during the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty, and it was just like a so-so primer in my opinion. It was like somewhat hydrating, but I really didn't feel like it did a whole lot else for the skin, so not one that I would repurchase. I also went through a mini size of the MAC Prep and Prime Skin, nothing that I would want to repurchase. I went through 2 mini First Aid Beauty Coconut Skin Smoothing Priming Moisturizers. You guys know this is my favorite primer, and I currently own it in a full size. I also went through the travel size Hourglass number 28 Primer Serum Base. This is an oil-based primer, and it's just too hydrating and too slick kind of to actually act as a good primer. If you have really dry skin, I could see why you would like this, but it just makes it difficult then when you're trying to pair it with a foundation. You have to be very careful with which foundation you're pairing it with. So this is not one that I would repurchase. This is also very expensive. And speaking of Hourglass, I also finished up one of their little mini Veil mineral primers. I do like this primer, but not enough to pay full size for it. From Yensa, I finished up a deluxe size tone up primer, Essential Glow. I actually really did like this. And if this was like easy to access, like if it was on the Ulta website, which maybe it is, and I just am blind, I would purchase this. I actually really like this. It had a really nice hydrating feel to the skin. It was super soft and almost had a smoothing effect, and it gave this really beautiful natural glow to the skin. So I really enjoyed using this and would repurchase if it was easy to get. I also finished up this VDL Lumi Layer Primer. I believe VDL is available on the Beautylish website. This isn't something that I enjoyed using, not one that I would repurchase. I also finished up this deluxe Korres Wild Rose Smoothie Brightening Priming Moisturizer. This was more of like a moisturizer than an actual primer, but I'm still counting it in my primer category because it says priming moisturizer. Would not repurchase this. It was just okay. It definitely was super hydrating, but again, it felt more like a primer, or it felt more like a moisturizer than a primer. I also finished up the Smashbox Photo Finish Pore Minimizing Primer. I do not like this primer. Wouldn't repurchase. This was a full size, and this was a painful, hard primer to get through, but very excited that that is done. I also have a little deluxe Milk Hydro Grip Primer. I do currently have another one of these in my collection that I am saving more for the summertime. I prefer this primer in the summertime, but I do really like it, and repurchased it when I finished that. And then also, these are not a primer. I think that is it for primers, unless I find more as we go. Oh, this is kind of like a primer. This is the Burberry Fresh Glow Luminous Fluid Base. I guess you could consider this a primer. So also finished this up. This is really nice, but really expensive for the full size, so probably would not repurchase. So I did end up finishing up 14 foundations, which did feel like a lot, but again, they weren't all brand new when we started the year. So I finished up from number 7, their Stay Perfect foundation, which I like, but feel like I can't find a good shade for me within their range. The finish is beautiful, but because of the shade range and just like weird way that their shades pull, I just feel like they pull very gray and ashy. I won't be repurchasing this one. And then I also finished up the number 7 Lift and Illuminate foundation, which I thought I really liked in the beginning, but towards the end of this, it just looked a little bit greasy on my skin. So this is another one that I would not repurchase. I also finished the Laura Geller Filter First. It's so funny to like relive some of these. Like I almost feel like I finished this a couple years ago, and then it's like, oh yeah, I really did just finish that this year. But I did finish up the Laura Geller Filter First Luminous Foundation. I believe this has been discontinued, but I wasn't a huge fan of this and wouldn't have repurchased it anyway. I also finished up the Essence Fresh and Fit Awake Makeup Healthy Glow. I did really enjoy this, but their shade range again on this one just isn't good. I feel like you can maybe get like 6 shades, and you used to be able to get this at Ulta, but I don't know if you still can. Again, I really did like the finish of this. If this somehow, like if I was at Ulta just browsing around and saw this at the Ulta store, I could definitely see myself purchasing this again, but it wasn't something that I needed to immediately go out and repurchase. If you like sort of like a healthy glow to your skin, I do think that this is a pretty foundation, but again, I think there's only like 6 shades within their range, so a little bit difficult to shade match, but a really good price. Throughout the year, I finished up 2 L'Oreal Pro Glows. One was in the shade 206, which was way too dark for me, but I used it kind of as a mixer, and then also in my normal shade 202, I also currently have one of these going in my collection. This is like a forever staple foundation within my collection. I will always have this. It's always been one of my top foundations, so I anticipate that I will go through multiples of these again next year. And then I also finished up one of the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte foundations in the shade 102. I also have another one of these currently going in my collection, and that one is nearing the end, but I know when I finish that I will repurchase, so I anticipate we'll be seeing these again next year in my makeup empties. I finished up this Maybelline Dream BB Fresh BB cream. I think there's only 2 shades in this, which is fine because it's a BB cream, but this just wasn't my favorite. And personally, I am a huge fan of the Laura Geller Tinted Moisturizer, and I kind of like wear the tinted moisturizer in similar situations that I was wearing this. And even though this is like probably like 3/4 less what am I trying to say? This is like $8, and the Laura Mercier one, if I said Laura Geller, I meant Laura Mercier. The Laura Mercier one is $47 or $48. So that one is astronomically more, but I just love that tinted moisturizer. Like, seriously, I'm obsessed. So I won't be repurchasing this. If you guys have any recommendations for good tinted moisturizers, leave them down below. I'm definitely interested in trying the ColourPop Freshen Up, whatever from their Fresh line. I want to try that. But for me, I won't be repurchasing the Maybelline BB Fresh. I also finished up the Maybelline Dream Matte Mousse. I didn't think you can get this anymore, but I do think you can still get this. I like the finish of this, but first of all, the shade match was not good for me. I had mine in the shade Classic Ivory, which is light 2, which might be the second lightest shade, but it was far too dark for me, and I felt like this one oxidized. And this one has a very interesting moussey texture that you kind of like put on with your hands, and it warms up on your skin, and it just takes a little extra time to make this one work for you. So I would never wear this on days that I was going to work, just because I never knew how long it was going to take for me to actually get it like set in place the way that I was going to like the way that it looked. So I wouldn't repurchase this one. Again, the finish is nice, but it's just a finicky formula, so I would not bother purchasing again. I was finally able to finish up my IT Cosmetics CC cream. This is the original. I feel like this took me like 2 years to finish. I do currently have the illuminating version of this in my collection, which I will continue to repurchase and continue to have that one in my collection. I just prefer the illuminating one to this one. This one I feel like can make my skin look a little bit lifeless and flat, but I do appreciate the SPF 50. I've said many times, I've worn this foundation so many times out in the blazing heat and never burned due to that SPF 50. So this has a special place in my heart, but again, I just prefer the illuminating version. And then I also finished up the L'Oreal True Match Lumi Cushion. I thought I was going to like love this as a cushion foundation to take with me to like touch up, and take this and have this as like a foundation where if I knew it was going to be a long day, I could bring this in my purse and touch it up. But I'm just not that type of gal to like touch up. So when I was done with this, I was just ready to be done with this. It was a nice finish, but I feel like you just don't get a lot of product with cushion foundations, and they tend to dry up and go bad pretty quickly. So cushion foundations just like aren't really my jam, so I will not be repurchasing this one. If you like cushion foundations, I do think that this is a nice one, but again, just not my personal makeup preferences. And then the last two foundations for me that I finished up were two favorites. First, I have the Dior Forever, and I believe that they have reformulated this. I currently have the Dior Forever Glow, which I like, not as much as this one though. I do anticipate that I will pick up the Dior Forever like matte version this year to see if it's similar to this, probably before I go to Vegas in February. I'm very excited for that trip because hello, your girl loves going to Vegas. This was just like one of my all-time favorite foundations. It had such a beautiful finish, more of like a satin matte or comfort matte finish that just like always looked good on your skin. I could always rely on this foundation, and I loved it, and I was really sad to see this one go. And then I also finished up my Too Faced Born This Way foundation. This is like my second or third bottle of this, and I eventually will purchase another one of these. I just am trying to get through a few more foundations before I go repurchasing anymore, but these two are high up on my list, and I'm sure there'll be new foundations to be releasing. So I want to use up some foundations that I know I won't be replacing before I bring these back into my collection. But I do know 2020, both of these at some point will end up back in my collection because both are beautiful. Both I feel like would work for like normal, dry, or oily skin. I feel like they just kind of check all the boxes in the sense that like I feel like they would work for a variety of skin types. So love these two. Very sad to see them go, but very happy that I was able to use them up before they went bad, because these two are pricier foundations. When I started to do the math on this, I was really surprised, but I actually ended up finishing up 7 concealers this year, which was shocking to me. Some of the concealers definitely have like not too much product in them, so we'll get into that. So first, I had my First Aid Beauty Bendy Avocado Concealer. I like this concealer. I just feel like there's not a shade that matches me well. Like I feel like all their shades pull just like a hair too yellow for me. So I haven't repurchased this. I don't know. I could see myself maybe trying this again in the future because I did like the formula, but I wish they would expand their shade range because I'm not a huge fan. I did end up finishing up the Naked Skin from Urban Decay I've Lost My Cap. because this broke, but I am so glad they discontinued this because I was not a fan. It was painful for me to finish that one up. I also finished up the NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer. I usually ended up using this as like an eyelid base as opposed to an actual concealer, but this one is really nice for like if you have breakouts, to cover up breakouts. It is a really nice concealer for that. I don't feel the immediate need to go out and repurchase this, but I do think that it is a nice concealer. I don't know. I feel like I wanna try other concealers, you know. I'm just not ready to fully commit to buying another one of these. I did finish up the Wet n Wild concealer, their Photo Focus concealer. I did really enjoy this concealer, but currently just my own personal whatever, I'm not currently supporting Wet n Wild, and there are other concealers that I like just as much or more than this one, so I'm perfectly content not purchasing that one again. I also finished up the Liquid Camo concealer, the Liquid Camouflage concealer from Catrice. This is another one where their shade range is definitely lacking, but I do really like this concealer. But again, I just feel like I found some concealers lately that I really do like. One of them I'm about to talk about that I can purchase over this one and be just as happy. I feel like I went through this one very, very quickly as well. The one that I am just as happy with is the Ulta Beauty Full Coverage Liquid Concealer. I did finish this off this year, and I have already purchased a replacement because this is one of my favorite concealers that I've ever tried. It's really nice and moussey and creamy and hydrating under the eyes. Also very full coverage. It's just like one of my perfect concealers, and I'm very, very particular about my concealer. So, you know, if I like a concealer, it's gotta be good, right? So I really like this one. It's also only $9, so it's not like you're paying an arm and a leg for that. And then the last concealer that I finished this year was the NYX HD Studio Photogenic Concealer. I also lost the cap to this. This was fine, nothing to write home about. I definitely didn't love this one, and I felt like I went through this one incredibly quickly as well. So this is definitely one that I will not be repurchasing. Okay, another category that I was really surprised I had gone through as many as I did was powder. I actually finished up 5 powders this year. One of them being the Becca Hydro Mist powder. Now this powder goes so quickly because it dries up very quickly because of the water content in it, but I was able to finish this up. I got this in BoxyCharm like halfway through the year and very, very quickly finished it up within like a month and a half to 2.5, maybe 3 months. But this one was not hard to finish up. Wow. I thought I had finished this one up last year, but this is the NYX HD Finishing Powder. I completely forgot about this. This is like the brightening powder. Would not repurchase this, just too dry underneath my eyes and just not a favorite. I also finished up the Tarte Smooth Operator Powder. This is really pigmented and a little bit heavy. I usually use this to clean up like my bake, and obviously it was just a mini size. Not something that I would repurchase. I also finished up the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Powder. I don't know why I'm showing you the empty container, whatever. This is something I think I will end up repurchasing. I thought that the $45 price point was a little bit absurd and ridiculous, and while I still do, there's really not a powder out there that does the same as this that I like as much as this. So I do see myself repurchasing this one this year. I really do actually really like this. I finished off this little itty bitty mini Cover FX translucent light powder. This is their Perfect powder. I wasn't as impressed by this as I thought it was going to be. Jaclyn Hill used to rave about this, so I thought I was going to love it, and it was just meh in my opinion, so nothing that I went out to purchase the full size in. And then I also finished up the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Pores Illumination Powder. I used to really like this, but as I got towards the end of this, it was just kind of like, I just preferred to use my Charlotte Tilbury powder. I just felt like it gave me smoother results. It just made me look a little bit more airbrushed and more like that perfect sort of finish that I was going for. So this is not something that I intend to repurchase. This has been done for a while and I've literally not missed it at all. So those were the 5 powders that I finished up this year. For bronzer, I did actually finish up 4 bronzers this year, but a couple of them, 3 of them I had been working on diligently in 2018. So first I finished up my Hoola Quickie Contour Stick. This felt like the product that would never end. I even like scraped inside this, but this is done. It was so long ago that I finished this. It feels like it was more than a year ago, but very excited to have finished that. I also finished off finally the Hoola Mini Benefit Bronzer. This is something I had been working on in my 18 and 2018 project pan, and I didn't finish this till close to the end of this year. But I'm very excited to have this out of my collection because I do still have the Hoola Benefit bronzer going in my Cheekathon palette, so I still own this bronzer in my collection. And then I also finished off my Becca Sunlit bronzer, which I used to think I was going to repurchase, but this is just so similar to the Physicians Formula bronzer that I feel like that one will just suffice. Like, I'm not gonna miss this because I'll have that one, and I have other bronzers in my collection that I currently do love as well. So I'm really excited to have moved this bronzer out of my collection and not have to replace this. And then I did also finish up my Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer, which I will at some point replace this year. I am coming off of a low buy, and I don't want to like go buck wild. I still am going to be doing a beauty budget, a makeup rehab of sorts in January, or not in January, throughout the year 2020. So eventually this will rejoin my collection. It's just kind of a matter of when. Okay, here's where it gets a little wild. So for mascara, I finished off, I use loosely 17 mascaras. Now when I say I finished off, for my mascara, when it reached the 3 or 4 month mark, I just counted it as done, and I counted it as complete, whether or not there was still product in it, just because for me, I don't want to risk getting an eye infection, and it doesn't really bother me if there's still like mascara in the tube, but I still want to count it as an empty because I was diligently working on that mascara. If it was a situation where I opened it one time and used it a few times, if it was a situation where I opened it and only used it a handful of times, that would be different. For example, the Pat McGrath Fetish mascara, I ended up using 3 times in decluttering, and that's not included in this. These are all things that I worked on diligently for a minimum of 3 months, maximum of 4, but I did end up going through 17 mascaras. Many of them are deluxe size. So, for example, I have 2 of the Dior mascaras. I also have a Marc Jacobs Velvet Noir. I have an Hourglass Caution. I have a Tarte Maneater. Oh, I forgot. I really do like the Tarte Maneater. I also have a waterproof Lancome Monsieur Big. I have a full-size Better Than Sex mascara. I have a full-size Mile High Club mascara from Wander Beauty. I do think Wander Beauty makes good mascaras. I have 2 full-size Essie Lash Princess mascaras. One is the False Effect and one is the Volumizing. I also have the Voluminous Superstar Fiber like mascara with the 2 sides from, I think, L'Oreal. I have a mini Kush mascara. I have a mini Kush waterproof mascara. I have a Flower Beauty Warrior mascara. I have the IT Cosmetics Superhero mascara. And then I also have the Benefit The Real Tinted mascara, as well as the just regular mascara. So obviously went through a ton of mascara this year. I would expect nothing less in 2020. I love to cocktail my mascaras. I literally use a minimum of 3 mascaras per day, which sounds pathetic, but it's like my trademark. It's just my thing. So those are all of the mascaras that I went through. I also went through 4 brow products. So I finished up the ABH Clear Brow Gel. This is so old and it is truly dead. And then I also finished up very recently this MAC Spiked Eyebrow Pencil. I also was able to finish off the ABH Brow Definer this year. I really focused hard on these in projects because you guys know I love just using my brow powder, but I had pencils in my collection and I really wanted to get through some of them. If you guys have any recommendations on pencils that I should try, I do kind of want to start getting back into pencils or just different things for my brows this year, so do let me know what you recommend. And then I also finished up the Essence Make Me Brow. So those are the brow products that I finished off. Ooh, I missed a foundation. I also finished up the CoverGirl Vitalist Healthy Elixir Foundation, which unfortunately has been discontinued. I do still have one full size jar of this in my collection that I am putting in my 20 and 2020 project pan because I mean, I may as well use it while I have it rather than let it go bad, but that does make me so sad that this has been discontinued. I do have one random eye product. I finished up the Stila Glitter and Glow in Kitten Karma. I got everything I could out of this. Like, I don't know if you'll be able to tell, but most of the sides of the walls are actually like empty. There is obviously still a little bit of product down here. These do dry up very, very quickly, which is really, really sad, but wanted to point that out. I must have counted this. So these are glow drops from Luxe Lights. I bet I counted these as part of my primers, but wanted to point that out. And then lip products. So most of the lip products that I went through were balms because your girl needs lots of lip balm here in Minnesota. So I went through 10 lip balms, 1 lip gloss, and no, 10 lip balms, 1 lipstick, and 5 lip glosses. So let's start with the one lipstick I was able to get through, and I freaking loved this lipstick. So this is a little deluxe of the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea, and this is in the shade Margs. I'm not going to scrape this product out, but like it literally drags across my lips. This was like my perfect lipstick shade. I wish that they would make this shade permanent because this is also my favorite lipstick formula. As far as lip glosses are concerned, shoot, I actually have 5 lip glosses. 5 lip glosses. Okay, so I have the Too Faced Sweet Peach Creamy Peach Lip Gloss, which is just a little mini that I finished. I also finished this lip gloss from Fluid. I must have got this in an Ipsy or something. I actually flew through this. And then I also finished up this Buxom lip gloss in Pink Lady. I actually did not have much trouble finishing this up, and my goal is going to be to use up like 3 of my little mini Buxom lip glosses this year, just because I have quite a few in my collection that I really do not need. And if I throw them in my purse and bring them to work with me, I feel like I can get through them. I also went through this deluxe size Marc Jacobs Sugar Sugar lip gloss. I still love Sugar Sugar. I think it's a beautiful lip gloss. And then I did finish off the full size original Fenty Gloss Bomb, which I need to replace because I still love this shade. It is probably still my favorite, although I do really like Sweet Mouth. It was like a limited edition shade in her Bomb Baby, like limited edition Christmas whatever. And I do really like Diamond Dust, but there's something about the original shade that just like has my heart. So eventually I will repurchase this. And then as for the balms that I went through, I just recently finished up the ColourPop Lippy Balm. I really like this, and I would compare this to the Kopari Lip Glossy, except for this is just a little bit thicker, but both are very, very nourishing on the lips. I also finished up the Laneige Lip Glowy Balm. Not my favorite, would not repurchase. I just felt like it sort of dried my lips out. I finished up 2 of the Milk Kush lip balms, one in the shade Nug. This again like scrapes at me if I try and put this on, but this is a really nice neutral shade. I do prefer the shade Canatonic for the Milk Kush balms, which I think if I finish that one I would repurchase, just because it's nice to have a tinted lip balm in your collection. These ones aren't going to like help survive or like revive your lips, but they'll help maintain the moisture of your lips. And then I also finished up Green Dragon, which is just the original. I did go through 2 of the Drunk Elephant Lippy Balms. These are not my favorite ever, I will admit, just because these it's almost like a glue stick, the size of like a large glue stick. So I feel like when you're putting this on, it's like you're literally getting lip gloss all over your face. So not my favorite, but I still have another one of these in my collection I'm trying to get through. I also went through the Bite Agave lip balm, like the one in the bullet form. Wouldn't repurchase this specifically. I just prefer the Bite Beauty Agave lip mask personally. I also finished up this Glam Glow Pout Mud lip balm, tinted lip balm thing. This was in the shade Birthday Suit. I'd had this in my collection for so long, so really happy to have finished that off. I also finished up the Chapstick Total Hydration Vitamin Enriched Lip Night Serum, which I just used as a lip balm throughout the day. And then I finished up the Sugar Rosé. And then I finished up the Fresh Sugar Rosé lip balm. Now I feel like a little bit more. No, that's completely gone. I do really like the Fresh Sugar lip balms, but they're $26 and I truly fly through them in like 3 weeks. The original one in like the copper packaging is by far my favorite. I think it's way more hydrating than any of the tinted ones that I've tried. Love it, but it's definitely like a splurge luxury item. But I did finish that off. And then finally we just have setting spray to talk about. I did finish up 11 setting sprays, which I was kind of surprised about, but at the same time I feel like I use setting spray quite a bit. Like I'll spray it at night. I don't know if I have any Mario Badescu ones in here. Yes, I do, which I'll usually just like spray on my face at night or refresh throughout the day. I also like midway through my makeup spray with my MAC Fix Plus. So I was like, whoa, like your girl uses a lot of setting spray, but it was a little eye-opening. So I finished the Ofra Makeup Fixer Spray, which I love because you get so much product in this. This is definitely something that I do plan to repurchase at some point this year. I also finished up the Scandinavia Makeup Finishing Spray. So many people rave about this and say it makes their makeup last forever, but I truly was unimpressed by this and prefer the Urban Decay All Nighter Setting Spray. So this is not something that I would repurchase. I forgot about this because it's been so long since I've used this, but this is the Catrice Illuminating Prime and Fine Dewy Glow Fixing Spray. I definitely want to repurchase this at some point this year. I really liked using this midway through my makeup to just give me a little bit of a glow without being too glowy and just kind of like refresh, but I really enjoyed that one from Catrice. I also finished up this little mini dewy Tatcha Luminous Dewy Skin Mist. You guys, I love this spray, but it is so expensive. So pretty much if I'm going on a trip, I will purchase the like travel size and use it on my trip, and it's like my little luxurious treat to myself. But other than that, I just cannot justify the price. I am interested in trying their satin setting spray as well. So if you guys have tried it, leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think. But I finished that off. I also finished up the Pixi Glow Mist. I've gone through multiples of these in the past. Used to think I really loved this. Wasn't a huge fan towards the end of this, so I don't know if I'm going to repurchase this or not. I currently really enjoy the Glow Recipe Watermelon Mist, which kind of gives the same effect without being like so glowy. So I feel like I would go with the Glow Recipe one over this, even though this is like half the price. Like I said, I did finish up one Mario Badescu spray. This was the Orange Blossom one. I feel like I'm taking a break from Mario Badescu sprays. I just feel like they aren't as good for your skin as I once thought. So haven't repurchased since this, and I'm not sure I will be repurchasing any more in the future. I do still have a lavender spray currently in my collection, but after that's done, I won't be purchasing any more Mario Badescu sprays. I did finish up the ABH Dewy Set Setting Spray. I liked this, but I felt like you could go too heavy with this pretty easily, so it was kind of like a risky spray, if you will. You could end up looking very, very dewy, so I have not repurchased this one, and I don't really anticipate I will in the future. I also finished up one Morphe Continuous Mist Setting Spray. I like this spray. It's nice, especially in between, like in the middle of your makeup when you're just trying to set and lock your powders in. I like it for that, but this setting spray goes so quickly. I swear I can use this up in like a month and a half to 2 months. So I'm not going to say I'm never going to purchase this again, but as of right now, I'm kind of like taking a break from Morphe, and I don't see myself repurchasing this anytime in the future. I also finished up two MAC Prep and Prime sprays. One was just the original, one was the coconut scented one. I still do have 2 MAC Fix Pluses currently in my collection. It's just like an all-time favorite setting spray. I don't know what it is about this. I just love the way that it locks in and sets in your powders. So I feel like this is a spray that will always be in my collection. And I did finish off 2 of them this year. And then finally I went through a little mini travel size of the Urban Decay All Nighter Summer Solstice. I flew through this. Like, I'm talking like 2 weeks and I was done with this. Whereas the actual full size of the Urban Decay will last me like 3 months. I just flew through this. I did like the way that this smelled, but I ended up purchasing this just so I could get like extra points at Ulta. It was a really good deal, okay, you guys? But very happy to have finished this up and have another spray out of my collection. And after that, you guys, those are all 95 makeup products that I ended up using up and emptying out of my collection this year. Leave me a comment down below if you have a tally of how many makeup empties you finished this year. I would love to hear from you. Otherwise, just leave me a comment and let me know some products that you finished up this year. What are your goals for 2020? I would love to hear from you. Other than that, thank you so much for sticking around to watch today's video, and I will catch you in tomorrow's. Bye.